Welcome to Tried and True with a Dash of Woo, where we blend rock solid tips with a little bit of magic. I'm Renee Bowen, your host, life and business coach, and professional photographer at your service. We are all about getting creative, diving into your business, and playing with manifestation over here. So, are you ready to get inspired and have some fun? Let's dive in. Hey there, welcome back to Tried and True with a Dash of Woo. I'm your host, Renee Bowen, and today is going to be a short and sweet episode. We are focusing specifically on pricing and selling, and we're not going to go super deep into this, but really I want to focus on the difference between a $300 client versus a $3,000 client and why you should be offering more of an experience to attract that higher end buyer. But first, I am going to give you guys some proof because your brains really just want proof and you're going to believe whatever you see proof of in your reality. So if you are constantly submerged in lack and all you are believing and seeing around you is that people don't have money to spend right now and people are pulling back and businesses are failing and the economy is bad and all of those things. If that's what you believe, right? If that's what you see and that's what you believe, then that is what you are going to internalize and use for proof that you can't actually attract a higher end buyer. But I just want to offer something to the contrary because there are still plenty of people spending money right now. All you have to do is hop on Facebook for a few minutes and you will see people flying to other countries to go see Taylor Swift, which is not cheap. Even if you can get a cheap ticket for her concert there, the flights are not cheap. The hotels are not cheap. People are still spending money on experiences. People are still spending a lot of money on Stanley Cups, special colors, limited editions. See what they're doing there, though. That's really like the idea. The marketing behind it is what matters. That scarcity, you can't get it all the time. Not everybody can have it. That stuff works. And I know that it stinks. I know that that is not what we want to believe. And we definitely don't want to be like a part of something, slimy and salesy. But at the end of the day, that's why people are able to sell things like that, $60, $80 water bottles, because they've created that sense of urgency and scarcity in the market. And it is positioning. It's positioning the offer. So you can find proof of people spending money everywhere. I pulled some recent statistics off the internet, so let's talk about a few of those. 45% of Americans plan to take a trip that requires a flight or a hotel this summer, spending an average of $3,500 to $3,600 per person, totaling over $424 billion on airfare and hotel stays. People are spending money on their home improvement. That's seen an 18% increase in budgets compared to 2023. As far as fitness and wellness, I feel like that area is always doing well because people are always trying to better themselves. But spending on fitness and wellness products, including gym memberships and home fitness equipment, has increased by 6 to 13% across various income groups. There's a noted increase in spending on luxury items, with the luxury automobile market experiencing strong demand, particularly among higher income groups. 87% of consumers plan to celebrate the 4th of July in 2024, spending on average $90 a person on food and items for the holiday. There's a demand for the latest tech gadgets, with significant spending on new smartphones, smart home devices, and gaming consoles. And 84% of people surveyed by American Express in July plan to spend more or the same amount of money on travel in 2024 compared to last year, indicating a continued investment on experiences and self-care. 70% of U.S. travelers plan to take road trips, investing in camping equipment and other outdoor gear. And spending on premium subscription services, including streaming platforms and meal kits, continues to grow, reflecting a trend towards convenience and personalized experiences. So just like you can find proof that people are not spending money, you can find proof that people are spending money. And I know what you're going to say, Renee, I live in a really small town. I don't live in a big city. Nobody here is, doing stuff like that, or it's just very few people are doing things like that. And to that, I say, I get it. I mean, I grew up in a very small town myself. The town that I was born and raised in and lived in until I was in college has one traffic light. So I understand that mentality. And it was in the South. And again, your region is going to matter, right? But I could also argue that you could either just accept that and keep yourself small, or you could choose to figure out a way to reach a higher end buyer, even if that means one to several other towns away. There are many photographers that I know of, whether they're in my coaching or not, who have people flying to them from all over the country because they have stood out in their market. They have stood out online and they do a really good job in their positioning. So I'm not going to let you off the hook with that excuse. You can accept it as an excuse. That's okay. I'm not judging you for it either. Like if that's really where you're at, I get it. But I really, really hope that you can dig a little bit deeper and realize that at the end of the day, nobody's coming to save you, but you can save yourself. And there's a lot to say for the ingenuity of someone who doesn't have a choice, right? I always talk about this as far as like one of the reasons why I think my business has taken off and done well is because I didn't really have a choice. Like I went into this like this, it's either this or I have to go get a really crappy job that I'm not going to love. So I'm going to make this work. I didn't have, my husband's income to really stand on, and I still don't. So especially now post strike, like the entertainment industry has completely tanked, like tanked. It's even worse than it was last year, if you can even believe it. So it is still up to me. And when you kind of don't have a choice and it is just kind of coming down to your creativity and how much you can think outside the box and how bad you want it and how obsessed you are with it, then you tend to be able to pull some things out of thin air that you probably couldn't otherwise. So that's the mindset piece of it. You absolutely can do it. I don't care where you're from. I know lots and lots of photographers and small business owners in very small towns who are still thriving. If you choose to close your doors, if you choose to lower your prices, that is a choice. I get it. But I don't want you to feel like you have no choice, because I really do believe that you do. The other thing is that when you are marketing to a higher end buyer, you don't have to shoot as many sessions if you're a photographer, for example. You are making more per client. So you're not out there killing yourself every day for $200-300 and not really seeing anything in return for that. I think that we can all agree, and hopefully, like even you guys, if you're a newer photographer listening to this, I think we can all agree that it is not sustainable to run a business on $200-300 sessions, simply because of the overhead that you have. I don't care if you don't have a studio or a lot of, hard costs like that. You have gear, and to be good at what you do, you kind of do need to have good gear, and you have to have backups of your gear. You can't just show up to a shoot with one camera, because there will come a day when that camera does not work, that it fails on you, or, just two memory cards or just one speed light, whatever it is. You have to have backups of your gear. It's not even just like one set of expensive gear that we have to have. We have to have a backup. So it's not sustainable to run your business with very, low prices, like $200-300 all in, giving everybody the digitals. It's not really a way to run your business. Now, if you do just want to sell digitals and no products and keeping your costs down that way, I understand. And there's a way to do that profitably as well, but you need to position those digitals as high end. Okay. You can still make good money when you do it the right way. I'm not a proponent of that necessarily, because I do think that portrait photographers should be selling product, because I'm a big believer that our images should be in print. And I have educated my clients to believe that as well. That's the thing, is that you are going to attract what you believe. Okay. So if you believe that people only want digitals and they only want to spend $200 for them, then that's what you're going to continue to attract, period. Like that's just the way it is. So you do have to shift your belief so that you can start attracting a different buyer. And if you don't have proof for yourself yet or in your market yet, use my proof or someone else's proof so that it gives you a jumping off point, because that's kind of the way the universe works, right? That's that abundance mindset I'm kind of always talking about, that when I see someone, let's say, who is on a fabulous vacation or who's doing really well in their business and talking about, I guess, like how much money they're making, right? And I know that they're vacationing and they're able to buy a new house, whatever, like any of those things. If I see that online, I'm not going to go to, oh, well, that must be nice, right? The first thought that I have, because I've trained my brain to do this, is to go, oh, if she can, I can. That's awesome. Good for her, right? I'm happy for that person. There's no jealousy, because all of that is that lack mentality, right? If you're looking at what other people have and you're like, yeah, well, you can have that because you have this, that, or the other, or because you're this person, or because that's all coming from your own limitations. You're using your past relationship with money to color the future and predict the future. And so it is a shift. You have to train your brain to think the way that you want it to think. So I've done that for a long time. So if by some chance I had that thought of a tinge of jealousy, then that would be a telltale sign for me that I need to double back down on my mindset and get right in the head, because something has slipped in and it is causing me to slip into lack. And that's not where I want to be. And I don't want to attract that. I don't want to live that. I don't want to be that. And I don't want to attract that in my life, because I only want to work with people who love what I do. I want to work with people who value photography as an experience, as art, and that they see it as an investment and they appreciate it the way I appreciate it. So you do get what you give energetically, right? And that's part of this whole process. If you want to start attracting a higher end buyer, you have to start believing that you can have that too. And this is where a lot of people get tripped up. So we're not going to get into all the specifics of how to rewire that. I do have other shows that speak to this, and I am working on a program that I think is going to be really awesome for dealing with that and for shifting that. But what I want to give you today are some actual strategic tips that you can hopefully start to implement in your business, as well as a perspective shift so that you can start to believe in what is possible for you. So let's just talk really quickly before I get into that about what I mean by a higher end buyer, right? So yes, I have had some clients invest upwards of $7, $8, $10,000 in their portrait experience with me. But most of the people who invest at like the $3,000 to $4,000 level are just regular, what you would call middle class to upper middle class families. They are not super wealthy. They just value the experience. And I've positioned the experience and the products in a way that makes it easy for them to be on board and to want to be a part of it. So your pricing and the way that you offer it and the psychology behind it really matters. So I just wanted to make sure you got that. I'm not talking about the uber wealthy people. Yeah, there are a lot of really uber wealthy people in the world. And that's great if you can attract some of those people as your clients. But most of us are not going to have that experience. It's not going to be like that is our entire clientele, right? And if that's you, more power to you. But most of us, that's not going to be the case. For most of us, it's families who, are middle class, but they are making this an important investment for them and their family because they value it. And it's not like they're just waking up one day going, you know what, I really think I'll just drop $6,000 on portraits this week. That's not the thought that they're having. They are attracted to your work. They're attracted to the experience. They want their child or their, high school senior, if you're a senior photographer, for example, to be a part of what you have going on. They want to be a part of it. So there does need to be sort of that element of exclusivity or, scarcity, so that it's not just everyone can have it necessarily, right? There are limited times, limited sessions, limited number of sessions you can offer. And that all comes into play with the marketing of all of this. But in general, to attract anyone who is, a higher end buyer, people who are more into the experience and who value the experience, there are some things that you can do so that it makes it easier to attract those people. I believe that you really do need to have all of your materials in place, right? High quality branding materials. Your website is a really big piece of this. If you are out there charging two, $3,000, $4,000, and your website looks like bootstrapped it and it's disjointed and, it just doesn't flow. Like you can tell that's a big piece of it. Your website really does need to back that up. All of your materials need to back that up. Everything that you put out on social media, it doesn't mean that it has to be beautifully curated and like everything has to be a Canva template. No, but you do need to kind of stand in what you believe it is, right? The professionalism of it. And the more put together and the more cohesive your branding is, the better. And the more it's going to exude that luxury and professionalism. So if you haven't done that in a while, you probably should do an audit of your branding, of your website, of the materials that you're using to market, whether it's in person or online, so that you can make sure they are up to par with what you are wanting to build. And if you're just starting out, this is a piece of it you can do right now. Yes, you do need to be good at what you do. I'm not going to gloss over that. Like, I think a lot of educators just sort of gloss over it and say, anyone can make $10,000 a session. And I don't believe that. I'm just going to tell you right now, yeah, I can believe that. I believe that you can do anything you want to do. 100%. I believe in you. But as a photographer, I really, really think that you have to be good at what you do. And there is a lot of work out there that isn't quite at that level. And that's okay. That's the whole point of continuing this process. I don't think that any of us are ever finished, right? Like, I think we can get comfortable and we can get to a point where we're like, oh my gosh, I could totally do this in my sleep. And that's fantastic. It means you put your 10,000 hours in. But at the end of the day, we all have room for improvement. And our seniors, if you're a senior photographer, their interests and taste and trends are going to shift and change. And so for us in particular, and probably wedding photographers too, but for us in particular, we really do need to be paying attention to how we're pivoting and how we're able to, you know, stay up to date with these trends like blurry photos and film looking images that a lot of you guys get very worked up about in Facebook groups, while also maintaining your own style and your own stamp. So it's not about changing everything that you do, but I believe that if we're not pivoting, it's a death sentence for what we do as senior photographers, because those teenage clients are not going to want to work with you and they're not going to post the images. And so you're not going to get any of that free organic marketing. I want my clients to post their images. I want my clients to talk about me. So how am I arming them? Like, what am I arming them with? Like, what am I giving them that they're excited about? And if they come to me and they're like, I love that blurry look, or I love that motion blur, or whatever, like they show me images as inspiration, I'm going to get some of those for them. First of all, I've been doing that for years. Like I've been doing that, I think, well before 2014, 15, because I've always liked the film look. I mean, I was shooting film back in the day. And so even my digital edits have like a film look to them. So it's not hard for me to do that because I like it. It doesn't mean the whole session's going to be like that. It doesn't mean the whole session's going to be like out of focus. You know, there's a middle ground. So anyway, I don't want to segue off into that topic. I just kind of wanted to mention it for a second because part of this is that you do need to have high-end work. Okay. So to attract a higher end buyer, your work needs to be good. You need to be good. So if you are just starting out, just keep going. You can raise your pricing as you go along. You don't need to like wait a year. You don't need to, sort of like do it in these large spans of time increments. You can do it as you go along. Have something on your site and on your materials that just says, pay me $10,000. And then you can just start pricing subject to change at any time. You are allowed to change your pricing anytime you want. And you should be doing that as you're growing your business because, yeah, you're going to start out doing it for a lower price, most likely, until you get good at what you're doing and you feel more confident in what you're selling. And then you understand what those numbers look like. I have a whole pricing class. It's free that you guys can check out. I will link it below in the show notes. If you want to know like the 4 main tips that I suggest you pay attention to when you are like creating your pricing and revising your pricing and the psychological aspects of it, definitely go watch that because there's a lot inside of that little free training. It's like a 30-minute video. So you can just kind of watch it pretty quickly. So another thing that you can do to attract a higher end buyer, in addition to understanding them and having your materials reflect professionalism and have your images look amazing, you can also offer exclusive packages and experiences that they can't get anywhere else, right? So when I'm working with a client and, I know that they're coming in at like a $3,000, $4,000 level, I'm spending time with them. I'm having a lot of touch points with them along the way. It doesn't mean I have to physically hold their hand. Now, a lot of photographers do like to have pre-consultations, like in person. They have a lot of touch points where they are showing up physically with their clients. I don't really do that per se because my clients are really busy and I'm really busy, but it is always open to them as an option, right? Whether it's like sending them materials, sending them, beautifully designed PDFs that walk them through the process. I want my clients to feel like they're taken care of every step of the way and like I am there for them every step of the way because they are paying for that. That's part of the experience. I offer pro hair and makeup. I have since day one, even when my work was new and I wasn't great at it yet. I wanted to always offer that for a few reasons, but mainly as this added touch point as part of an experience. I offer custom designed albums. That's the biggest seller for me as a senior photographer. And, different things like wall art, all of those things. So offering these things does lend to more of a high-end experience and speaks to a higher-end buyer. The other thing too that you want to be thinking of as far as like attracting a more higher-end buyer is where are you marketing to them, right? So you do have to know who that buyer is. I talk a lot about your target client. I have a free PDF for that too that helps you kind of like at least get started on that. So I'll link that for you guys below in the show notes too. But you need to know who you're speaking to. You are going to market to this buyer that we've been talking about a lot different than somebody who's looking for a photographer for a couple $100 to show up at a park and hand over a flash drive of images. Those are 2 different people most of the time. Okay. So you need to be speaking to that target client in your marketing in a very specific way. You'll need to be speaking to the experience that you offer using social proof like testimonials and the words of past clients to attract more of those higher end buyers. You're going to want to offer something, like I said before, that not everybody can have. There's definitely a piece of this that resonates with that specific buyer. Again, this will probably differ from region to region, but especially like in the South, I see this a lot with my coaching students who are photographers in the South. There is definitely a lot of keeping up with the Joneses and, well, I want what that person has sort of mentality. I don't see that as much where I am on the West Coast. I see pockets of it, like small little micro uh, environments of it, like in the suburbs and in certain suburbs of Southern California. But as a whole, like in LA, not necessarily as much, right? But you guys who live in the South or even maybe in the Midwest, there definitely might be some of that happening in your area and your market and your clients. And so it really is a great thing for you to pay attention to because you can leverage that in your marketing. You want to be displaying your testimonials. You want to be standing in that confidence. That's the most important thing that I want you to kind of walk away from this episode hearing is that high-end buyers can sense uncertainty and nobody wants to feel uncertain. So if you are not confident in what you're doing and what you're offering, they're going to be able to smell that a mile away. You want to be able to fake it a little bit until you make it. Honestly, that is a mindset shift, right? That's up to you to work on. That's why I'm a big fan of hypnosis and meditation and being in the energy of who you want to be, really immersing yourself in that version of you, that confident version of you. So if you haven't done that yet, outline what that version of yourself looks like, what that version feels like, what that version does on the daily. Write it down and make a manifesto about this version of yourself who is commanding this price. Like get very specific, get really, really specific. And then sit with it in meditation. Allow yourself to become obsessed with it and to daydream about all the different beautiful things that that version of yourself experiences daily, how she feels, how she moves through the day, the things that she does, and do it every day. Spend 10 to 15 minutes every single day feeling that in your body. And if you do that religiously for 2 to 4 weeks, your outside world is going to shift dramatically. I promise you. It is something that a lot of you guys don't believe, right? I get it, but it's because you haven't done it. And if you have done it, you haven't done it long enough. That's really what it comes down to. You can't just do this for like a week and be like, oh, that didn't work. Okay, sure, it didn't work. How deep is your belief? How strong is it? And how unwavering are you in getting this thing that you want? How bad do you want it? Do you want it more than anything else in your life? Like you definitely are going to get the results that you want depending on how obsessed you are with it. And your state really matters. So if you're approaching all of this with like oh, I really want this, but I know it's not possible for people like me, or I'm just not good at this, or whatever. That is not a strong, certain belief that you're having and holding and feeling. And so you're not going to be able to like energetically match that version of yourself that you are conjuring up. You've got to get to that place. And this comes with time, just like anything else, just like how you get better over time as a photographer or as an artist, and your skills will develop and your editing gets better. This is the same thing. Your mindset gets better over time. The stronger you get with it, the more disciplined you are with this, the stronger it gets. And the more you do this and the more you sit with this, your outside world will shift. You will start to see proof of it showing up in your life because you're doing the work inside. They match. So in general, you have to stop talking to higher end buyers the way that you would speak to people on a budget. That's really what it comes down to. And all of the copy that you use on your website, all of the captions on your social media, all of the things that you say to people in person matter. And so if you got to fake it a little bit until you make it, that's what you need to do, because guess what? Your unconscious mind does not know that you're faking it. Your unconscious mind does not know that you don't actually have $10,000 in your bank account right now. Your unconscious mind doesn't know unless you tell it. So you get to decide what reality you want your unconscious mind to believe, because whatever your unconscious mind believes is what you are going to put forth out as far as energy and what you're going to attract right back to you. So why not make it believe that you consistently and effortlessly attract clients who would love to spend $3,000 to $4,000 with you per session, or whatever that is. Insert whatever your dream is there. Why not have your unconscious mind believe that instead of what you have been telling it, or what the people in your direct circle around you physically have been saying to you? That's the other thing. If you've got people in your world who are consistently knocking you back down, who are telling you that's not possible for you, who are telling you that, people around here just don't spend that kind of money. You have to break free of their limiting beliefs as well. Okay. And you can, and it may take you physically removing yourself from that environment a little bit. But when you get stronger in this mindset work and stronger in your, discipline of making sure that you are doing it, and you're really good at like talking to your unconscious mind and implanting the kind of life you want and beliefs and feelings that you want, you will start to see other people show up in your life who will support that more as well. So whatever is showing up in your life right now is a reflection of how you're feeling. I know a lot of you guys don't love that, but it really is true, right? So I really believe that. I really believe that how we feel matters so much. And no, we're not going to be in great moods all the time. Trust me, I have had my fair share of really shitty, stressful weeks the last year and a half, a lot. Um, I've had to get really, really strategic and strict with myself about this because I have this anxiety brain. It's really easy for me to catch all of these little stressful anxiety thoughts, especially about money, especially when I'm the one mainly supporting us, right? Because then it's like up to you, like as the breadwinner. That's a really tough thing, as especially I think as women, like we love it, but it also kind of goes against our sort of like feminine receiving energy sometimes. And so we can get stuck in the masculine, which is not super fun. I'm just going to be honest with you. So I have to be really conscious about that. And I have to be very aware of how I am showing up energetically, just in my personal life, in business, whatever. Am I leading with my masculine too much? Am I leading with my feminine as well? How am I receiving? How am I just showing up to like be in the energy that I want to be in and not trying to like force and create and make, right? So there's a lot that I could say about that. But at the end of the day, really what I want you to hear is that how you feel really, really matters. So if you are trying to attract a higher end buyer, and you feel really stressed about it and you feel really intimidated, not confident, like it's not for you, that's a telltale sign that you have a lot more mindset work to do before you can actually probably implement the strategy. Yes, you can do it at the same time. I have coaching students who do that often. But again, they're working with a coach. They're working with somebody weekly who is showing up. Well, not even just weekly. They have me on Voxer. So I'm, showing up and on their Voxer thread, helping them stay in this mindset. It's a lot harder to do it on your own. It just really is. It's why I always love having a coach myself and why I like to surround myself with like-minded people, right? Um, my friends may not be my close circle of friends may not be business owners per se, but they're all super positive. And all the people that I do surround myself with, as far as like business owners, are of that mindset as well. We are all very supportive of each other and we can all give each other a nice swift kick in the pants if we need to. So that is a very important piece of it and why I created Elevate, because I wanted to create a group where people could just go in there for 49 bucks a month and get coaching and also get support from other people, other photographers who are dealing with the same stuff that they're dealing with. So doing it by yourself, it's a lot harder. Get yourself a community of any kind, whether it's one of mine or not. Get yourself a community that's going to help you stay on track, because if you want to attract a higher end buyer, if you want to make more money in your business and you know that what you're doing is not sustainable at $200, $300, $400 a pop, giving all the digitals away, that is only going to last so long. And if you are unsatisfied with that result, then you have to double down on your mindset to make sure that your body is also on board with that, because you can think it all day long. You can overthink it all day long. Unless you really believe it in your body, it's not going to show up for you. So that's why I say you have to sit with it daily and feel it. You have to feel what it would feel like to be this version of you. You have to really embody this version of you. And yeah, it's going to feel super weird. especially if you've got people in your immediate, vicinity who don't reflect that back to you. Be stronger than that, right? I'm here to tell you that it can happen. I see it all the time. I've lived it myself. But those things in your life will start to fall away when you step more into this energetic space that you desire to be in. So you do have to be okay with that part of it. What's meant for you will always be for you, period. So trust that you are on the right path. If you're listening to this episode, chances are you're of this mindset anyway. You are already primed for it. And this was just a little reminder. Again, we didn't get so super deep into this episode about, all the nuts and bolts of how to raise your prices. Because I don't know where a lot of you guys are, honestly. Like, there are people who listen to this podcast who aren't photographers. A lot of you guys are. And even within that subset, some of you are brand new. Some of you are completely professional and been at this a long time. But even those of us who've been at this a long time fall prey to that. Oh, what if, right? Like, we always go to this like worst case scenario. Well, what if I don't book any more clients next month? What if I can't book any more clients? That kind of stuff. Your mindset is the most important, and how you feel is the most important thing that you can be working on right now. And then, yes, creating a strategy of what that looks like for you. So again, look in the show notes. There's this little free pricing video that's going to walk you through those 4 things that I really feel like you need to kind of have in place when you're creating like more boutique, higher end pricing. So if you are looking to do that, that's a really good resource for you. The target client resource will be down there too. I might put a couple of other things down there if it comes to my mind when I'm putting this together later. But also, if you feel like any of these things trigger you into like, oh my gosh, I do have some more work to do, there's Elevate. You can always show up and Elevate. It's, not hard for you to join that. It's very accessible, and you get a lot of this and more inside of that. You can also purchase my pricing class, which walks you through how I love to teach boutique pricing. It's very simple. It's easy. I do not overcomplicate it with like multiple collections and like different levels and all. If your clients are confused, their brains are going to shut down and they're not going to want to buy anything. So you don't want to create a system that is confusing for your clients. You want to make it really simple, and you want to make it work for you. Ultimately, where do you want them to be? How much do you want and need to make? And then expand out from there. So attracting this higher end buyer really and truly means, above anything else, above even the strategy part, means you are feeling confident that you can attract this higher end buyer. You are feeling that, you're embodying that in everything that you do, everything that you say, everything that you believe. And it is going to feel foreign for you at first, but over time, it gets easier. I promise you. I promise you, it gets easier. You do have to commit to it though. So I really hope that you do. I hope that you see the value in this. I hope that you see the value in shifting from a very unsustainable business model to one that can bring you not just, great financial outcomes, but also a lot more meaning. Because when you have this sort of business model, especially as a photographer, this boutique model where you are charging more for a higher end experience, you're working with fewer clients and you're creating deeper relationships with them. And then you have the opportunity to give back to your favorite nonprofits, because you don't have to worry about, I wonder if I'm going to get paid for this. You can just give stuff away. You can donate your time to your favorite nonprofits. You can give away a couple of sessions a year to families who truly are in need and would greatly appreciate what you do. You don't have to worry about charging people because you are priced appropriately, and you know your numbers and you feel confident in what you can deliver. So that's that goal, right? And if you have any problems with that, if you have any trouble with that, if you are looking for help with that, whether it's like, I want to be a better photographer, I need to get better consistency in my work, I need to be a better editor, I need a better workflow, I need to not spend 8 hours editing a session, I need to get better at selling just in general. I need to just get better at sales, my sales language. I need to understand the psychology of pricing. If any of those things are things you need to work on, you need to get inside a coaching with me, because that's what we do one-on-one, and it is tailored to you. That's the beauty of it. You're not worried about, like, my groups are great, don't get me wrong, but one-on-one coaching is like the super fast track. So I do have a couple of spots open for that. I am going to be, pulling back a little bit as I go into fall, though, because I do get busy. So if you are looking for someone to work with you, hold your hand throughout this process and help you create a system that actually makes sense for you, your market, where you live, and your mindset, and how you integrate things, then you need to hit me up. Schedule a call. That's below as well in the show notes. And I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your week. I know we are living through multiple unprecedented times right now, but again, it is up to us to control our actions and our reactions, because ultimately that's the only thing that we have control over. Okay. Your response is your responsibility. Just remember that going forward. So I love you guys, and I hope you have a phenomenal week, and please hit me up on social if you have any questions, and I'll talk to you guys soon.